Well, this discussions that we have all the time about different teams and different, eras, but this pops up every now and then. Who would win in a game between Georgia's 1980 national champions and the 2021 national championship team for the Dogs? I'm not really sure there's going to be much in the way of competition from my end of things. We are seeing what is today essentially a different sport than occurred in 1980. But the mythology that's surrounding the 80 team, obviously the legend that is what Herschel Walker did while he was at Georgia, particularly, I mean, I would say particularly during his freshman season, but um, it is really hard to make the argument that the 1980 team would really be within two touchdowns of this Georgia team. And stick with me as I tell you the reasons why. There's a couple of different reasons. First of all, the 1980 team had to survive several games, frankly. Including the opener, a 1-point win at Tennessee, where Herschel came onto the scene with Bill Buckner running Bill Buckner over. The Clemson game, a 4-point win for Georgia over Clemson in Athens. The Mississippi game was a touchdown game in Sanford Stadium. That was tight. And then the game everybody forgets about, which is a 13-10 win over Carolina at home, when George Rogers was South Carolina's running back and wound up winning the Heisman Trophy that season. Look, George Rogers should not have won the Heisman in 1980. All right, there's a lot of things that I'm going to say here that people are going to disagree with to some degree because of whatever, but I think that's one thing we can agree on. Herschel should have won the Heisman Trophy in 1980, but Georgia escaped South Carolina that day, 13-10. And what people don't recall as well is that was billed as the big game for Georgia at the end of the season. Only a week later did they survive the Gators in Jacksonville with Lindsey Scott and Buck Belue. Beat Auburn by 10 down there with the uniform switch for the Tigers, and then handled Georgia Tech by 18. The win over Notre Dame had an a defensive touchdown, and I think a dive over the top for Herschel. I mean, it wasn't a dominating performance over Notre Dame, but whatever got the job done. I don't think you can compare that lineup to what these guys did. That's number one. The march to this championship was more thorough. Make sure you're picking up DAWGSTRUCTION. The link is down below. The win over Clemson, the 10-3 win, that was a tight game. Make no mistake about it. But then as you keep going on, 56-7 over UAB, 40-13 over the Cox, 62-0 over Vanderbilt, 37-0 over Arkansas. A couple days later, it's 34-10 against Auburn, and then one of the closest games of the season, 30-13 over Kentucky in Athens. That just like I shouldn't even know. 34-7 over the Gators, a game that Georgia did not play well in. Generally speaking, that's how bad they beat them. 43-6 over Mizzou, 41-17 over Tennessee, a total beating. Obviously, a lopsided win over Charleston Southern and Georgia Tech. But the loss is the one thing that will make people say, "Oh, well, I would take the 80 team because of the loss to Alabama." The 1980 Georgia team would get smoked by Alabama, just the way they get smoked by these guys. Okay, and then Georgia going in 34-11 over Michigan. As great a season as 1980 was, you talk about a win over Tennessee, Clemson, Florida, Auburn, and Notre Dame. That's huge, no doubt about it. But this past season, the link is down below. Make sure you're getting that book while I got them. The win over Clemson, Auburn, Tennessee, Florida, Michigan, Alabama. I mean, it's hard to really compare those two things. Then, when it gets down to it, y'all, the guys are just built differently now. I mean, Herschel Walker was an anomaly in 1980. He would be a really good running back right now. He wouldn't be Herschel Walker. If you took Todd Gurley and put him in 1980, he would put Herschel Walker to shame. Now, be triggered, have your head blown off all you want, metaphorically, do whatever you want, but it's true. I mean, there's very few people that have been like Todd Gurley. The guy is a straight up freak. And if he existed in 1980, everybody would be rewriting every single story possible they've ever discussed about running backs at the time. Um, I say that, and then in the same breath say that Hersch Walker was the greatest college football player of all time. And I'm not sure it's particularly close, frankly. I mean, I don't know who his main competition would be. I guess um, you could make the argument that the running back at Ohio State that won back-to-back Heisman's, which should have been what happened with Herschel. You want to make the argument that Tim Tebow, which I think kind of falls apart. But it was just a different time, y'all. Guys my size, about 240, 250 pounds, were offensive linemen and defensive linemen. The guys today weigh 300 easy. Uh, we would get thrown around. I mean, I am a tight end in today's football, and I'm not a big one. So 6'5", 250 doesn't get you where it used to. That would be a monstrous player. And that's what set Georgia apart was Herschel Walker himself. And when you compare him to today's athlete, although he would still set himself apart with the speed, the power, you know, he didn't have a lot of wiggle, right? I mean, he was a blunt force, and a force nonetheless. To see Todd Gurley play at that time, to see Nick Chubb, there were not a lot of guys like Nick Chubb back then. There's not a lot of guys like Nick Chubb now. And when you just go through the tight ends, I mean, comparing the two, I would tell you there's not. I mean, I would say Stetson's a better quarterback in terms of production than Buck Blue, but we're talking about a different time period. You want to talk about somebody who is probably not given the due that they should in terms of being athletically gifted. It's Buck Blue, frankly. But that's another story for another time. But I don't see. Um, I don't see that 1980 team scoring a lot of points on the Jordan Davises of the world, the Kobe Dean, who, I mean, look, y'all, Herschel had like world class speed. Jordan Davis and Trayvon Walker had pretty fast times at the NFL Combine. So I think they would eat up the offensive line. I think the 1980 team would be hard pressed to score double digits against this team. And I think, frankly, it would just be a matter of time before, Georgia's offense, the 2021 Georgia offense, would run away with the game. But tell me what you think. And I'm sure that you'll be mad about what I said about Herschel Walker, but I've said this for some time now. I mean, Todd Gurley, if you sent Todd Gurley back in time, if him and Michael J. Fox and the crazy scientists are in the DeLorean and they're going back to 1980, and you just drop Todd off when he's 18 years old, I'm telling you, it'd be a different college football today. We'd be talking about Todd Gurley nonstop, and people like me still talk about Todd because we know, but it's just a different sport now. I mean, Todd Gurley didn't last a decade in the NFL. That tells you how the world has changed. Anyway, you tell me what you think. You tell me which one you got. You got 1980 or 2021?